Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the channel. How's my hair? My name's Aaron. I sell trade collecting grade. This is my channel where I talk about all things in the hobby. I am in my garage, in my car. Not driving today. It's been a bit. I think it's been about 2 weeks since my last upload, and then 10 days since the last live stream. First things first. If you're going to be around this Thursday at 7 o'clock Pacific, PST, Real Collectors Fake Investors with myself and Jodo Jake, the one and only. It's going to be a fun stream. Tune in then. What can I say? The streams have been doing well. People like watching them. A lot of engagement, good views. Everyone has a good time. And if you watched last episode, I'm still scarred by that Gold Star Pikachu learning I had from Jake. Anyway, and also like, comment, subscribe if you don't already. Support the channel. Let's talk about a few things today. So, first things first, there's probably going to be a bit less car videos as I've going through some life changes. I'll be able to record more stationary. So it's kind of weird to say because I don't actually know what it's like to record when I'm not distracted. So let's see how it is when I'm undistracted, not distracted. I won't be driving as much. So maybe it's something I'll share in the future. And you know, I've been keeping an eye out on the market. The market. I've said the market probably more times in a year than I have in my entire life. The card market. I want to talk through, you know, some of the things I've been thinking about as we venture into the crash. Oh my God. So I'm here recording in my car and my wife turns on her phone and TikTok's like blaring into the car. You might have seen a part of that into the clip earlier. Anyway, that scared the hell out of me. I've been thinking about the market and just like what's going on in the space. And what's really interesting to me is like, I don't think people on YouTube really understand that we are a small microcosm of like what actually goes on in the hobby. And even on YouTube, it's probably the same 5,000, couple thousand people who comment, 10,000 people who watch that are ingesting like market content and investing content and, you know, pump, this is going up, this is going down, market crash, bullish, bearish, like all these like very financy terms for how people approach Pokemon. And, you know, that said, that there aren't a lot of true experts. I'm not saying I'm an expert. I'm just saying that a lot of people are just interpreting what they see on TCG Player and eBay. And as such, they're kind of like, they're making broad statements suggesting that what they see on those platforms is indicative of what's happening at the local level, at card shows, local game stores, what's happening on other platforms like Fanatics, what's happening on other platforms like that. And, you know, I as I've spent a little bit of time away from the hobby because I've just been busy with real life stuff and travel and work and all this stuff and life changes, I started to just like really think about how crazy it is. The things that people say in the hobby and how there's so many new professionals who are coming in, making content, talking about their thoughts and feelings of what's going on. And I think if you're new, it's really leading people into believing like that's actually what's going on, right? And, you know, vocal minority, you know, the very few who speak loudly, you hear them the most. And, you know, buy, sell, trick, collect, and grade. That's why I've always been an advocate of people like going out, getting out themselves out there, going to a show, meeting vendors, vending yourself, going to a card shop, learning to play the game, because it gives you a perspective on like what people say online versus what actually happens in person is usually not the same thing. And you know, we've heard all this like it's crashing, it's not going well, Rudy said XYZ, so therefore this is what's happening. And, I can honestly tell you that, like, I don't know if most people will agree with that. The businesses are still flourishing, right? People are still buying singles. People are still buying sealed product. If anything, I think it's the people who get whipped around by the invisible hand, the new vendors, the people buying at certain percentages, who are trying to be a hobbyist seller, right? The people who are the most impacted by sudden changes in the market, I think they're probably the ones who are most affected by any type of news or change in sentiment or anything like that. Speaking of sentiment, there's a podcast from two of my friends, Josh and Nick, the old card shop in Retrospecs. This is like 2 weeks ago, where they were talking about, Nick was talking about, the 151 Mewtwo promo and how people are saying now, like, nobody wanted it, right? And nobody wanted it back. I'm air quotes. Hey, I got to use two hands. I can air quote for free. Usually I'm driving. And how, like, people's interpretations of what's going on is never really backed by what's actually happening, especially with, like, public data platforms like eBay and TCGplayer. And I think the example he was going through was, that 151 Mewtwo promo sold way more in terms of volume and quantity, right? When it first came out than it does now. And I think when people interpret what happened then, oh, no one wants it, right? Oh, it was a free card, like it was a junk card. I think what you hear is someone who already has the card, or someone who the card doesn't appeal to, saying these things and then making a judgment on what's happening in the hobby as a whole. Now, the thing I really like about Nick or Retro is he's not a collector. He's a fake collector, fake investor. Just kidding, Nick. He's a business person. He's not a I love Pokemon to death person. And so, his perspective I can listen to and trust because he's about making money. He's about growing the business. And so he's not attached to certain cards or sets or this or that. He's purely looking at this at a lens of, like, how do you capitalize on the opportunities that are at bay, and also how do you sift through a lot of, like, the opinions and sentiment around what people are saying online and actually go figure out opportunity. And these days I bring that up an example because I think, like, when people talk about market sentiment, there aren't actually a lot of ways to measure that, right? This is not like the stock market. This is not like a mature financial market. Typically what people are doing is they're going on social media, they're going to YouTube, they're seeing what their peers are saying, they're looking at market price, which market price is not indicative of sentiment. It's mainly just how much supply versus how much demand, right? And they're making a judgment call based on all these elements that, truthfully, the thing that it's missing is what happens at the local level, what happens on other platforms, and what is actually happening at shows. And I think these days everyone believes they're an expert. Very few people run businesses. Very few people have ever sold a card. Not a lot of investors have actually realized their investments. There's just a lot of, like, role playing of mature business person or business professional. And again, there's not a lot of ways to actually, like, vet people, right? Typically, if you get more views on YouTube, then you're kind of looked at as, like, someone who knows what they're talking about. And, there's some correlation there, but there's also a lot of channels and a lot of people who make content who there's no qualification. I'm not saying I'm more qualified or less qualified. I'm just kind of highlighting this is the crazy time that we're in right now, where anyone can step up to the plate and say, you know what, I'm a market expert. I was sharing some channels with Jake, and one of the channels, I won't name the channel, it's just funny to me. I got served in my algorithm, which I guess that means it's me, not the video. Anyway, this guy must have been like 20 years old, and it was a video on, like, why I'm so bullish on the Pokemon market. I will be honest. I did not say the word bullish I've said the word bullish more times in the last year than I have my entire life. I've said the word market, referring to a market, more times in the last year than I have in my entire life. That's coming from me. I'm like neck deep into this. And a lot of these people will be saying the same things because like that's what they hear. It's just so interesting. And I think like we're so neck deep into the terminology and the analyzation and the profit margin and what to buy, what to sell, that like we lose sight of this is not really how most people engage with the hobby. And you know, I had a friend who went to a local show, and he was telling me how a vendor there was selling their Phantasmal Flame boxes for like a little under 300, and then within the same day they had to bump up Phantasmal Flames by 20, 25, 30 bucks, and then up to 50 bucks. That does not suggest to me that people are down in the market. It's one point of data, but that's just me that like there's some level of demand for Phantasmal, and it's probably high, although we are still in pre-release, and people want it. And so, you know, you can look at a chart in TCG Player, you can see the price go down. You can say, I think people are bearish on Phantasmal. You know, I worked in tech for a long time, and the thing that engineers versus non-engineers, like there's this constant battle. Technical people hate it when non-technical people don't understand data. They don't understand how to sift through like what is important. They don't like it when non-technical people do not understand how to be objective. And I see that a lot now. Like if you can speak to engineers, if you can speak, you know, to people who really understand objectiveness, it's a skill. It takes time. It takes some level of effort. But when you shortcut a lot of that and you just make broad sweeping statements based on how you feel or what you see someone else saying, it honestly, yeah, it's a very interesting dynamic. Going back to that conversation that Retro had with Josh, the old card shop, I think people really lose sight on fundamentally, this is all you have to do to really understand where the market is headed. Check multiple data sources, understand what is sold, understand market price, so that is a part of it, understanding how that changes over time, and then doing as much research as possible before you make statements like, nobody wanted the 151 promo, the Mewtwo. Nobody wanted this, or this is doing well, this is not doing well. Oh my god, that's a crap set. You know, I hear this a lot now with Journey. Good old Journey. Journey's a bad set. No one wants it. I've said it too, right? But it's like I'm just kind of like having fun with it. People will legitimately say that, and you know, say stuff like, nobody wants that set. It's like, clearly people want that set if there are sales and people are paying the 220, 230, 250 for the box. And so you just get a lot of like, how should I say this? How you feel about a set is not actually what's going on. And I think I've learned over time, I can feel one way and the market can do something different, can show something different. And it's okay, as therapy has taught me and most people, it's okay for both things to be true. It's okay for both things to be positive. It's okay to not agree. So we're in this time now where the market is down. I guess, yeah, I mean, it is seems to be slowing down a bit. And you see a lot of the leveraged, that sounds like a plague, the leveraged people who took on unnecessary risk, trying to get out, trying to cash out, trying to sell things at a bigger percentage or lower percentage. And I hope as we go through this, I hope people get that, like, this is how it's supposed to be. It's not always supposed to be super exciting, you know, like on the way up. It's supposed to be ebbs and flows of positive, negative. People like this set doesn't do well. Market price goes up, market price goes down. But since Surging Sparks last year, you have a big cohort of people who only know what it's like for the hobby to grow. And this is my constant regret of all regrets. If I had a regret, I never stay liquid enough for these opportunities. I never have enough money that I'm happy with to buy when shifts happen and people don't want certain sets and that kind of thing. Now I'm still buying Destined. I bought some Astral Radiance. I bought some Brilliant Stars. I'm still buying all that stuff. But, when I look around into certain slabs and maybe some other Sword and Shield, and I see a lot of the prices, people start posting Facebook groups. They want 20% off market, 25% off market, right? Or they have old posts where they have updated the price and they want some cash offer for their local. They want some cash offer for whatever set. Those are the reminders that all that goodness, when everyone's feeling so great about things, that was probably time to sell a bit. Not be celibate, sell a bit. That took a dark turn. Sell a bit, sell a bit, sell a bit. Start hoarding a little bit of money, selling on stuff you don't like. And then once you feel that sentiment, once you feel that change, people start poo-pooing on YouTube and, you start hearing all this like negativity. That's when you start to strike. That's when you start to decide, all right, I can buy things on a curve. If I'm buying it when it's down and I'm buying it 20% off, so 80%, right? 75%. When the market does well, then it grows 10 or 20%. Then I would have bought it I'm netting like 30 to 40%, right? Trust me, that's not card bro math. That's real math. Every time it happens, I swear. I have so much coming in, buying for the collection, buying for the business, and then I see these opportunities just come by. And I can't capitalize on them. Oh well. I think we have so much to be excited about as we go into the 30th next year. I think it's going to keep up. I think we are going to be in a lull for a bit. Phantasmal, I have a super duper dusted hot take where I believe Phantasmal is going to take a hit going into Christmas. I have no reason to believe that. It's just my guess. But I think next year, especially as we get into past Mega Dream, whatever it's called, the hopeful Hoenn region, which I think would be pretty epic, Ruby and Sapphire set, and then 30th, I think we'll be okay. I mean, the only thing that can hold us back is if the scalpers leave and they print a ton of product. They're probably going to print a ton of product, which wouldn't be the worst thing. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys. I hope you enjoyed this car video out of my garage video. Tune in this Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific. Real Collectors, Fake Investors with the one and only Jodo Jake. And yeah, leave a comment, like, subscribe, and that's all I got for you guys. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace. Is that a good thumbnail?